What is up? I have a Roman Arutyunov back for part two from Zage, who is the founder. Last episode, we went through more on his journey, how to be a founder, an entrepreneur today, what to do, how to approach it, and how you could break through the barriers with your product and with your mindset. Today, we're covering more about the effect of AI in security, how to approach it. And then in addition, like his actual use cases, some things that he loves that he sees and like very tactical examples of how to use AI for a non-technical user today. So I've been loving these episodes because always when I talk to a founder, I learn something new or get different perspectives. So I think you'll enjoy this as well, and which is why I do it. So have a good one, and I will talk to you soon. Welcome everybody to the Scale Up Show. This is your host, Ryan Staley, and I'm back for episode 2. So we have Roman Arutyunov, who is the co-founder, head of product at Cybersecurity. Roman, welcome. Happy to have you back, man.
Thank you, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
Yes. And if you missed episode 1 with Roman, for you entrepreneurs out there, go back and listen to it. He talks about his jump from the corporate life to growing a $20 million company in 7 years, what he needed to do to make that big change mentally and emotionally and psychologically, as well as how he approached the market and handling an idea. So if you missed that, go back and check it out. But today we're going to get more into the AI side, and I got a couple of things that I'm noodling around that are stirring in my head. And, one of the ones that come to mind is like, obviously you're a master at security and protecting critical infrastructure organizationally, or I should say nationwide, our nation's, most critical energy assets and, foundational elements to just how we operate. I guess, like, what is this whole AI boom done to security? Like, what are the challenges it's created? Like, what do you have to watch out for? And then, like, what's your view of this? So I'd love to hear just kind of your take on it.
Yeah, it's a big topic, right? So AI definitely has made some important influences onto the whole industry in general, both in terms of, offensive security as well as, defensive security. AI can be used in both aspects of security. But fundamentally, we at Zage, we utilize AI as well. Of course, we are defending a critical infrastructure in our nation, and AI has really simplified uh, a lot of the tasks and processes that organizations would have to do otherwise. It's incredibly good at things like, threat model, right? Identifying threat vectors. Previously, you would have to do this whole, threat planning exercises that new companies still do. But AI could really simplify this. Interacting with it is easy through, this ChatGPT like interfaces where you can be collaborative and, describe the different environments you're in, and it can come up with a number of different threat models. It's also very powerful in analyzing data and producing insights, right? There's tons of data. A lot of organizations are struggling with this ton of data that they are overwhelmed with. It's just, taking people away from their day jobs and just looking at data. And AI is great at identifying insights in that. And the other thing I would mention is oftentimes, in cybersecurity, in order to take any sort of action, you're leveraging a number of tools out there that and some applications that enterprises may already have. And it's incredibly good at, creating integrations, writing code for you and writing scripts. It understands how these tools work and it can develop integrations for you on the fly. So really powerful from the defensive perspective in cybersecurity for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a great breakdown, and you hit a lot of different areas. So I think, there's, well, let's simplify this massively, right? So what are the top 3 things that any user of any large language model needs to do to make sure they're protected when it comes to security? And let's maybe assume they're on not a free account, right? Because that's step 1, but let's say they're on a Teams or an enterprise account, right? Maybe Microsoft Copilot, something with a commercial data protection guarantee. As a security leader, what are the top 3 things you would still do just to cover your bases on that? And how would you kind of approach it?
Yeah. So, we've launched a product at Zage. We call it Xena, the Zero Trust Cybersecurity Copilot. And, it is hosted on Azure. It's using the data models from there. We've supplemented it with the learnings that we are developing here at Zage as well. And what customers can do is they can integrate it with the Zage Fabric deployments that they have in their organizations and supply additional data and learnings from there to generate, an augmented model where it can be really insightful in understanding, first of all, what is my cybersecurity posture now? What are some of the things that I need to do to improve it? And third is I'm worried about a certain vulnerability. How do I mitigate it? So it's incredibly powerful in doing those things. When you're exposing I think some of the things that customers ask all the time is, well, how much of this can I actually expose to my models, right? Some of the things you could do there, and then we do that with Xena, is you can actually take that LLM model that's already been trained out there and you can run it in your isolated environment, right? So it doesn't actually it's already been trained, but it doesn't have the connectivity and ability to share the data you provide to it with the rest of the world, right? The broader models. So you kind of have your own instance of your AI engine and you're training it or supplementing it with the data from your organization in a more safer way, right? I think lots of the concerns that we hear is when you are actually sharing it with a much broader, then we see some examples of this where AIs that's broadly available, models that are broadly available have knowledge about internal resources of a specific company. Um, that happens in situations where not using a private isolated instance.
Okay, good. How about you? How are you using it personally? Like, let's say outside of your product as a product leader, like what are your top 2 to 3 favorite use cases for you personally?
Yeah. I'll cite a number of examples, but it's incredibly good at taking complex documents on topics which may not be, well written in, so very technical and complex to understand, and really simplifying into the key value propositions and points you should be, really highlighting and talking about. So when it comes to developing marketing collateral, it's incredibly useful. We're talking about briefs, we're talking about, data sheets, even blogs. It's able to summarize things you may have in really rough formats into really crisp and clear documents. So it's very useful on that. The other thing that we actually do is we are and I do this all the time is when you have a big document to read that compliance document, let's say, or if that's published by NIST or some sort of a regulatory compliance checklist, and those tend to be 60, 80, 100 pages long, right? And you just kind of want to get the top points out of it and you don't want to read it all, right? So there are tools out there that can convert it into recorded podcasts, 6 to 10 minutes, and summarize that whole document for you, highlighting, things you should really care about. So that's another thing we use exclusively. Just myself, I use it for my own needs when I don't have time to read 100 pages of stuff. So yeah, I think it's really helpful for my personal purposes as well as the company marketing has started to rely on as well.
Yeah. So you're talking about Notebook LLM, right? Cracked is the tool with the podcast.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It was
you've
funny
used it
that,
as well.
yeah. I've used it. I had, I think I mentioned this. I had alpha access before it was released in labs form. And the one feature it didn't have was that audio feature. And that's the feature when they released it where everybody started to notice because it's probably been out to the public for about 3 months now, but not a lot of people really grabbed onto that aspect of it. It's funny because I see people using it here and there, but not a ton, right? But it shows well. And it's pretty unique how they do that. Like, I think there's some really good use cases for children with learning different components for that. I think
Mhm.
that could be exciting. They showed the demo on that specific tool about maybe, I feel like it was like 6 months ago, and they had it customizable as well. So I'm curious to see how that kind of evolves as things progress, because they had like customized learning. So
Yeah.
that's super cool. And then I think like for you, man, I'd be curious on this. So I think those are some great use cases. Obviously, marking, collateral, briefs, data sheets. Is there anything on the product management side you use it for that you think is like super good besides digesting large amounts of information? Anything else that you used it that you liked it for?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, oftentimes in product management, you are, you're doing so many different things when you're with your product, and you often get very into details as far as defining, key product and feature capabilities and working with engineering to actually deliver on those. Oftentimes you lose track of what is actually your key differentiator, what are your strengths, and where you should really spend a lot of your energy on. And I think that with some of the AI tools out there, the ones you mentioned for sure, and some other ones as well, it can clearly summarize that to you for you, and and bring you back to the level up into what you should really focus on and continue to focus on.
Which products would you leverage for that? You mentioned there's certain products. Which products would you leverage for that?
Well, for example, you can go on a chat GPT and you can ask you can ask about what makes your product better than a competitor's product, and
Okay.
it will spit that out for you. You can also refine that further and supplement it with what you're trying to the direction you're trying to go, and it will prioritize some of the items in there for you as well that
Okay. So
match
for like
that
product road
match.
mapping and stuff like that.
Yes, that would that would match with your core value proposition, your key differentiators, and things like that. Of course, it's sort of to a point,
Hmm.
but it's still important to oftentimes to bubble up one level when you're deep inside of focused on delivering on key features and working with and the details. Continue to bubble up and reinforce what's really important.
Those are good examples, and I like that. We're just about up on time though, and I guess the one question I'm thinking is, especially you from like a product leader, an entrepreneur perspective, with how much easier it is to become and develop products, do you think there's going to be too many companies out there creating products in the market to make it really, really difficult to stand out? Like, I guess, like, what's your take on that with like how the barriers are coming down and the cost to create products is coming down?
Yeah, so there's something to be said about that for sure. It's often the other area where it could be really useful is in essentially code generation, especially and testing and automation, and those areas could be incredibly powerful. So it kind of accelerates your roadmap or your ability to deliver product. But that's actually just makes the whole industry, faster and more competitive, right? It's good for innovation, right? So it's fundamentally, it's that principle of identifying what's a gap in the industry, a need, a problem, a challenge that needs to be solved, solving in a very delightful way. That's what we do as an industry, right? That's what every entrepreneur does. We'll just do that a lot more and faster now.
Hmm. True. That's a good point. All right, Roman. So we're just about up on time. Where can people find you? Where can they find out more about Zage? And we'll take it from there.
Yes. So Ryan, so I encourage everyone to follow me on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn after this, and you can learn a ton of information about Zage on our website, zage.com. We also have a LinkedIn page, and that's often, so follow that. That has latest updates as well.
Well, thanks for being on the show, Roman. This was a lot of fun, and appreciate you joining, man.
Sounds good. Thank you, Ryan.
All right. And we will see you all on the next episode.